I don't know what you just did down there, but it scared her a little. I gotta try to run back to the issue. My tablet. Maybe. Yeah, I know somebody said somebody stood up and was like, you know, somebody at a time.
Yes, thank you. And then I did my last week or so.
It's an interesting one.
Which was a 3 years conference. In the last 2 years, a trade camp, and they handed out
Okay. Yeah, actually, you know,
we did, I did the microsurgery.
flying to Miami and then we're doing first one for me, I've done Alaska, but I've never done I really wanted to do it. Like, they were doing what you want.
She's still working.
I think she is just
We should. That was my thought. Yeah. I'd rather have made that decision for himself. Yeah.
I just got out of an intubation like 4 minutes ago. Oh my.
And then they start sending a lot of
The TVs are not cooperating, so they can tablet so they can see it tonight. Because none of this one actually projects. So we're just kind of, all right, Ashley was the only elected official on the board by the board, that's pro tem, we do call this order, and I would suggest maybe like after the pledge itself, we appoint the president.
That is not going to be, but certainly we can do that. So this is the one and only time I will
Yes.
use the large gavel today.
Hold on.
Thank you so
I'm sure
much.
you have all your equipment.
All right, it is officially 5:01, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. So if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, and welcome to the March 22nd, 2023 regular board meeting for the Geauga County Board of Health. So in calling this meeting to order, I'd like to motion for an approval of the prior meeting minutes.
I have some additions. Give me 1 second.
Any comments, questions?
Yes.
Is there an extra set? I must have not, in the email, I must have not.
So regarding the March 2nd meeting minutes, under new business, a sentence says, during an internal review of services and contracts, it was found that fees were collected from business, but inspections were completed sporadically for many years. I recommend changing that to, but it appears inspections were completed sporadically for many years. Because we have not completed a full investigation, so I don't wanna commit to that language there. And then,
I agree.
regarding the February 22nd, meeting minutes. Where was I? Oh, under new business, Mr. Lark explained that this, a grant that helps, so it should be this is a grant that helps, so just add the addition of is, for that line. And then there was, under the administration division update, it said Mr. Lickey stated that a clerk has resigned due to salary. Was that the correct reason for why the clerk resigned?
I think there's multiple reasons.
So can we just, amend that to say that a clerk resigned?
Yeah.
Because I suspect that was not the.
That was one of the
I don't
reasons given,
recall.
but I don't think it's any specific.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Good. Okay, so with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes for the February 22nd, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Health, and a motion to approve the minutes for the March 2nd, 2023 special meeting of the Board of Health as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. You want roll call vote on that?
You guys can just use.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
And-
opposed?
I will abstain, since I did not.
You were not.
Actually, you probably, I think actually you weren't here, so I think you was,
Abstain.
yeah.
Yep, so
Aye.
2 abstentions, and I, Dr. Root, and
Yes.
Mrs. Breaky
Yeah.
are ayes for the yes. So with that, those are approved. Okay.
And then, yeah, so if we can jump, if the board entertains it, we can jump, the election of a board president up to the top there, so that we have a board president for the meeting.
Before we do that, I'd like
yes.
to introduce and welcome Dr. Hendrickson to the board.
Yes,
Yeah,
that,
we're very
that was gonna
happy
be the
about
next thing too, so thank you. Yeah, so Dr. Henderson was voted in by the Health District Advisory Council, March 15th. This is his first meeting with us. He did spend some time at Parkman, so you can condolences to him with that, so that 2 or 4 hours with me, whatever it came out to be. But he was generous enough to come down after him and I met for a while. Dr. Henderson, would you like to tell everyone about yourself or anything?
Well, my wife's Lisa Giardi, pediatrician at the clinic. I retired a couple years ago. A few years ago, I've been at the Cleveland Clinic. We used to live in a place called Cuyahoga County in Shaker Heights, right by the middle school. Having completely different goals, we moved to Geauga County. We live at Newberry, right at the corner of Newberry. Well, in Newberry at Lucky Bell and Bell Road. There's about a 10-acre spot there. Used to have 3 or 4 old white trucks and a beat-up barn. We got rid of the trucks, we redid the barn, redid the house, put in a driveway, and we're looking to develop that even more. And we're having just an absolutely bit of heaven on earth there. Very grateful for that, very grateful for this opportunity to serve on this board.
Awesome,
Wonderful. Welcome.
thank you. So I guess if we go into the election of a board president, we would need a recommendation, then we'd all have to vote.
All right, well, with that, I would like to nominate Mrs. Carolyn Brakey for the position of president for this Board of Health for the term, which would begin today until, for what, 1 year term, until next year?
Yeah, I was actually trying to figure out when your pro tem was up as well, and I did not find the notes before coming to the meetings. I was trying to get some other stuff for you guys ready.
Mhm.
So I don't know when yours may be up, and I just couldn't find it.
We usually vote yearly.
What I recall is that we did
Mhm.
both
Right.
Rich and Ashley
That was
in
my
the same
understanding.
meeting last year.
Yeah, I
So
think that makes sense.
we need you
We need to
president
do
and
both.
pro tem as well, is what we're gonna do, so.
I
first
second the motion for president.
Alright.
I was gonna nominate Ashley, but would you be interested in being board president, Ashley?
No, I would not.
She was faster than you on that one.
Rock, paper, scissors.
It's a solid maybe.
But thank you. So we have a second on president.
Yeah, so do you want to do whatever, do roll call?
All right, so roll call vote on this, Dr. Hendrickson?
Yes and yes?
You
No,
did, we're just doing
yes,
the
we're
first,
doing
just president
president,
first.
just
You
president.
can abstain, you can vote no or yes, it's up to you.
Yes.
Dr. Rude? Sorry,
Yes.
that's me, I'm waiting for somebody else.
I'll abstain.
Right. And
Yes.
Ms. Lynn Roman, yes, and Ashley Jones, yes. So with that, congratulations, Board President, Mrs. Carolyn Brakey.
Well, it was a pleasure to be elected by my fellow board members for a position that no one wanted.
Congratulations.
You will serve it well.
You will serve well.
So with that,
So we musical chairs it?
You can if you'd like.
yes, election for pro tem then.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah,
Okay.
so any first or seconds for any?
I would like to nominate Ms. Ashley Jones for the position of president pro tem.
And I will second that.
Alright,
I
buddy,
will
roll call?
accept the nomination if the board so approves. So with that, if you or I, roll call vote, Dr. Hendrickson.
Can I vote yes and yes again?
You can.
No, one yes, one.
You get one.
I mean, you can vote yes as many times as you want, it looks like one though.
All right, with that, we have a yes, Dr. Rude,
Yes.
Carolyn Brakey.
Actually, I probably should be conducting this vote since
Yeah,
I'm the president.
so why don't you do that?
But I.
Here, would you like to switch?
Yeah, I feel like
She
I'm in
was
the
the
wrong
yeah.
chair.
I know.
Here, I'll
Right.
just move down.
Well, yes, here. This truly is musical chairs. Thank you for entertaining us, everyone. All right, Lynn.
Not to give a power grab for you already.
She looked really sad about that.
All right, so we have a motion to appoint Ms. Ashley Jones as our president pro tem and a second. Dr. Hendrickson, we'll do a roll call
Yes,
vote
again.
again.
Yes and yes.
Technically, you're gonna be yes squared this time.
Dr. Rude,
Yes.
Ms. Roman,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Abstain.
and Mrs. Brakey is also a yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you as well.
Okay,
Take the head of the information session.
yeah, let's head into the information session. So, environmental health update, Mr. Lark.
Hello, I don't have anything to add from my board report. I do have 2 items under new business that I would like to cover when we get to the next section.
And one of them is a handout, the rules and the procedures that you have in front of you.
Yeah.
It's nothing incredibly time consuming to read, but at least gives you an idea. It's just a formality, but Dan will go over that one.
Can I ask about this current language?
Sure.
Is that the new business thing that we have?
Yes.
Okay, can I ask about that now, or should we wait till the,
I mean, you can do it now if you like.
okay, I was curious about this language. Does this come from the prosecutor's office, this proposed? Because it drops the mention of NDPDS in the new language, and so I guess I was curious how this works.
Questions, Dan, on that one?
Yeah,
I discussed it with the prosecutor's office, but that's not the exact language from them.
okay. So the Geauga County Board of Health adopts a rule requiring the collection of the required annual sample to be completed by the Geauga County Board of
Yeah,
Health.
no, it probably needs a language in there for what specifying what samples, yes.
Okay, so that's what so requiring the collection of the required annual sample, for the NDPDF and.
NPDS.
Yes,
Yeah,
NPDES, okay, so we should, amend that accordingly before we vote on it, okay. And we'll handle that in new business. Does anyone else have any, discussion regarding Mr. Lark's, environmental health update? Hearing none, we will move on to the population health update.
The only thing that I have to add to the report is the agency nurse Nurses ProLink that we use for COVID immunizations. Our agreement is up on the 28th of this month, and we are not going to continue with that agreement. We will still offer the COVID vaccines, but they're going to be offered at our normal adult immunization clinics, which they would just call in and schedule for that. So the service is still going to be provided, but it has dwindled down to very little interest. So there isn't a reason to have them here. They didn't cost Geauga Public Health anything. There wasn't any fee involved. I mean, it obviously cost taxpayer dollars, but it wasn't a direct cost to Geauga Public Health.
Just for information purposes, where are the current adult immunization centers located?
What do you mean by adult?
I think it means where you're doing the shots.
Clinics.
Here,
Which is
That's-
we're here at Geauga
sorry.
Public Health. We do them usually twice a month. They're every other Friday.
And like Carol said, it's just, we haven't seen the inflow setting up to keep retaining 2 state nurses, or
Yeah,
provided by the state, sorry, not state
Yeah.
nurses, but provided by the state,
I
so.
understand.
I had a question about the community needs assessment that was presented on March 8th. I was curious who that was presented to.
They ended up placing it on our website. It was done during the day. I believe last week or 2 weeks ago during the day, and it was presented here. So it was posted on the website and it was open to the public.
Okay. Any more questions regarding the population health update? Okay, so we'll move on to the administration division update.
I have no other updates.
Let's see. Any questions? No? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the administrator and health commissioner update.
So, a couple things, Dr. Henderson actually came down with me to Parkman, and we met with a state rep and a state senator. We were looking to try to get some additional dollars freed up to help with the Parkman well issue. Mike Deerfield really is the one that spearheaded almost all of that. He is tenacious, to say the very least, and he makes a good case. So we're gonna start working with them. We're gonna do a little media publicity thing as well with that, to kind of get the word out there about the wells and how we're trying to fix it. State rep, Steve Demetrio and Vernon Sykes were both extremely helpful. We have their contact information to follow up with them, and so we're gonna keep doing that as well. I think we spent, what, 2 to 4 hours down in Parkman, I wanna say, and got a tour of even one of the houses and what the pipes look like and how they burst and everything. So, Mr. Henderson he happened to be with me when I got the call to come down, and we happened to just go down together. And then Dan Larkins also came down with us and got to see and talk as well. So that went really well.
And where's the status of the drilling of those wells?
There's one well left. It was actually supposed to be started, and it's one of the Amish community members, and so he wants a specific type of a pump. He does not want it to be solar powered. So we had to go for an outside source to get the non-solar powered version. It's an air pump, if I remember correctly. And so that one should be finished up hopefully by the 31st, which is the end date for that term for the contract. Dan Lark and they have not confirmed the date yet, but we're gonna have an OEPA meeting with them to line up the additional second phase of the contracts as well, to open up to
Yeah.
additional homeowners in Parkman. It doesn't meet certain criteria. It's not just a free-for-all where if you say you get a well, or if you want a well, you get a well. But they do exceed the requirements of parts per million and other things, so we'll go from there with that.
And how many wells have we now drilled?
We've done 5 so far, if I remember correctly. There's a 6th one, yep, and then I want to say there's 16 total, Dan, that hit the numbers.
Oh, wow.
15, 16,
Something
something
in
like
that
that.
ballpark.
Yeah.
Wow.
They fluctuate a little bit. Some are outside the general scope we looked at, so there's some discussion going on with that as well.
16 minus the 6.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, sorry.
So
Yeah,
10
16,
left.
yeah. And there was one person who didn't want it. He chose not to, so he, as of right now.
And a couple houses we couldn't get into to get a
Yes.
sample either. They never responded to
Okay.
either us knocking on the door or leaving letters on their front door either.
No. The hope is obviously they see us drilling well, they come out and go, what the heck?
Right.
Let's talk. And then
Yeah.
we have to talk, we
Yeah.
try to help them out with the monies there from Ohio EPA.
And is there additional grant funding for those,
Yes.
11 additional?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we're gonna talk with OEPA about.
Okay.
The initial goal was, let's at least get through the first 5, well, it was originally there 7, get through those 7.
Yeah.
And then go back, because we have a better idea of what we're looking at,
Right.
and so the original hope was we would drill down to the second aquifer, and hit that one and be fine. Unfortunately, that one had a high rate of iron in it, so we drilled down to the Berea aquifer, what we call the Berea aquifer, and that one was much better off. So we went down to that one, so the next well drilling, we'll have to go onto that well, that aquifer as well. So we're not drilling one well, testing it, not having the results from it, and then drilling a whole new well. I think poor Mr. Deerfield has, I think, 3 wells on his, actually 4 wells on his property now, because he found another one. So the poor guy has a well about every 15 feet.
He's got a couple properties there.
Yeah, and that's just one property, unfortunately, it's
Oh,
just
gosh.
one, so,
Okay, wow.
we'll help him out with that.
Is there-
Adam, I just have a question on that.
Yes.
At my business, I have a well for the business,
Mhm.
and they put it right in the middle of an iron seam or whatever. And so the iron content is extremely high.
Mhm.
But we mitigate that by taking secondary precautions
Necessary steps.
to help that. And so I'm wondering why that is a deal breaker for using that aquifer.
Yeah, so in this case, the material inside the house mostly was not covered by the grant. It's covering the well, pump, and it was the well, the pump, and something else. Pressure tank. It did not cover anything else. So anything to treat the water would be on the homeowner. So obviously, the thought was, let's just go down to the third one, the Brew Aquifer, take out Brew Aquifer, see if it's good, test it far better. So we'll drill down to all those. That way you don't have to buy all the additional equipment.
But I think to Dr. Root's point too, is it just isolated iron in there? I know with the other wells, the problem was, you know, the chlorine
It was
and
the
some of the
salt.
other stuff, the
Yeah.
salt.
And that's in salt.
Yeah.
So is that an incidental finding that we're seeing iron in an
I mean, is it
aquifer?
possible that if they dug in a different place,
Uh,
that they may not hit iron?
Potentially, but
There's high iron
those
in the soil
lots
too.
are what, they're probably a quarter acre lots. They're very small, so it's not.
Okay.
Most of the things geology, they think like everybody's got 5-10 acres. It's like a quarter acre lot.
We have 1.4 acres at my business,
Mhm.
and there was a well on the property, but there wasn't any papers on it, and it was crystal clear.
Hmm.
So they made us move it 25 feet, and we hit the iron seam.
Okay.
So that, I'm bringing that up for the
Yes.
point being that it was just 25 feet away,
Right.
difference between clear and not clear.
Yeah, and in this case, unfortunately, I think where we came back with the Ohio EPA, instead of trying, because if we drilled again, we hit it again, it's just using
Yeah.
more taxpayer money, so we
Right.
said we're gonna drill down. And OEPA was 99% confident, I mean, in my opinion, that was gonna be crystal clear water, and so it's just a safer bet.
Okay.
But they were okay with it just being iron that checked the box then, so they're willing to replace that for the grant though? is my
Yes,
question.
yeah, so
Okay,
that,
good.
we drilled
Good.
the first one, which hit the iron, well, it had higher iron content.
Yeah.
And then they said, just drill down, move the well, drill down to the third aquifer, or, well, in our version, the third well, and hit the Brew Aquifer and test it. They tested
Okay.
perfectly fine.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
And we also discussed ultimately resolving the problem with this ODOT salt station in that area, and then working to uncover if there's any other, all the salt stations, ODOT salt stations, whether any more in Geauga County, others in Ohio that have the same problem, because they did have a problem, I think, back in the 80s in another county.
Yes, yeah, and that is one thing we're looking at now, with Steve Demetrio and with Vernon Sykes, is what we can do about that. They were both pretty adamant, of their opinion, but obviously they don't speak for an entire majority of, like none of you speak for the entire board, that type of situation. But the mere fact they were able to help, they called and found a funding source for a couple things we needed relatively quickly. It's not gonna hurt, and then they're eager to, now that the wells are drilled, the first set, to talk, do a little public interaction with the media and start pushing out some of that information on how things went. And the helpfulness, honestly, is the OEPA was, and some other major players.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my concern is just that, has ODOT moved this salt?
Currently, no.
No.
So the source of the contamination
Still there.
still maintains there, and I find that concerning.
Yes, that is our current topic of discussion with some of them, is
Okay.
that there are discussions, my understanding is not that we're involved with,
Right.
but hopefully that'll change soon. We have a state rep now and a state senator who seem very eager to, help me on making it not on top of a hill, not having some issues. it has.
Yeah.
My understanding is there's also brand new designs, or mostly new designs for how that does their facilities, and maybe that comes into play too, that they maybe update the design of that one to catch the
Okay.
issues. So, we'll know more hopefully soon, but as of right now, we kind of have what we have, and we're going with what we have for right now.
Okay, well, go ahead, Lynn.
Do we know how long that salt, location has been in place?
Ugh.
Good question.
Gosh,
He did tell me at one point, and I don't recall.
It's years. years.
Yeah.
It's years, so it's so,
They've been having this
I wanna say
problem.
the seventies.
I thought 70.
It's been
Seven-
more years.
yeah.
alright, so it's been out there
It's
for
been about 4
some
years they've
time.
been working on
I
it.
just don't wanna butcher the date it started, but I wanna say, I was told the seventies, I wanna say.
Yeah.
'cause,
Yeah,
there was some
okay,
jokes
that's
about-
fine. The point is,
That's
it
kind of,
took-
that was kind of the joke, which is why,
it took 50 years for a
yeah.
problem to be created.
That was kind of my question
Yeah.
too, is how, I mean, do we have a little time on our side, hopefully?
Hopefully,
To
yes.
mitigate the issues so that we're not, you know, putting
Yeah.
all these new wells
Right.
in and then immediately have a problem
Right.
after.
I think from
We-
Dan and I talking, you know, Dan's obviously the expert, you know, the casing depth amongst other things is now improved. I think you're gonna see a difference on that. And then obviously, hopefully there's gonna be some changes with the other stuff as well. So I think together it should correct the issue. Obviously, the biggest concern for us is, you know, if you contaminate the first aquifer and then you hit a second, and the second one say has high iron on your entire property, then you hit a third one, you get that one contaminated. There really is nothing else until, it's like Middlefield or something, I wanna say, out there. So it's massive, it's not Middlefield, it's,
That's the problem.
I can't remember,
Public
it would
sewer,
be,
right?
it would be a lot, so.
It becomes public system after that, with the water.
There's different ways to be handled, yeah, so our goal is never to get to that point, just to handle it, you know, and again, you know, I think this was brought to the health department 4 or 5 years ago, I think was the email that he showed us and the senators, and then we had started addressing it about a year ago, heavily, so,
And the local community basically wants it, it seems they want it out of there
yeah.
from what they've been through.
Yeah, at least from talking to the Henry Dushare and Joyce Peters, who are the most trustees I talked to the most from Markman. And Dan, I've been to multiple meetings down there, including I think a 4-hour one on the cemetery, which was exhilarating. That is their contentment, is that they would like to see it moved entirely
Yeah.
somewhere else. So that's, again, we don't make that decision. It's
But
the
are
board,
those
basically.
people also working toward that effort? Are they public and
I won't say they are.
vocalizing and,
Well, yes, the trustees are, I won't say anyone else is, just because I don't know, I don't know behind the scenes of what's going on there.
Good updates, though.
I would like to request, if in new business, if you would so entertain, if we were to extend the contract that you signed, or sorry, the contract you signed had the last day of employment for current GPH employees as March 31st. If the board would be so inclined to make that April 1st, their health insurance would cover all the way through April. So if you're so inclined in new business, I would request that.
Okay. Are we jumping to?
do we need?
No, we don't have to jump there now, that's something to think about, I don't want to spring it on you until you have 4 seconds to decide, but if you're so inclined.
So for those employees that applied for positions in Lake and received those positions, there'd be no lapse in their.
There should be no lapse, so they would technically be dual employed for 1 day, which is March 31st.
Okay.
And I guess April 1st is a Saturday, so not really counting April 1st.
Mhm.
They tend to be dual employed, and their health insurance in Lake should kick in May 1st, it's a 30-day wait period, which means they would not be without health insurance, is the hope,
Okay.
Yeah, no.
as of right now. I did get the video posted of the groundwater presentation that Mr. Lark took part in, Carmella took part in, a bunch of different people within the county. It was Geauga Soil and Water, Geauga County Department of Water Resources, and Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, as well as Mr. Lark. We got that video back. They obviously had it, they made sure all the sound was good, and then we posted that earlier this week. And that's done pretty well. I think a lot of people have really been excited to be able to watch it and learn. And there was a lot of good discussion that night too about groundwater and wells, and OEPA covered a little bit into East Palestine, and that went really well. There's some questions, there's really good questions and answers. And we went darn near the maximum what that meeting was supposed to be, just with a lot of Q&A at the
Good.
end. So it was really, really well done.
I had 2 people make comment to me that they thought it was really good. So, great.
Yeah, we were definitely excited for that, and I appreciate James Fisher from OEPA coming down to do that, because I'm sure it was not an easy thing to go into, assuming there's gonna be like 99% East Palestine questions. Not to mention the other county agencies that were there answering some really tough questions, but really giving a lot of information to people. I'm not sure we'll let them talk exactly right now, but we have 2 members of the HDAC committee here, or sorry, 3. I'm Mr. Mueller here as well, but Chris Olashef and Jonathan Tiber, Mr. Mueller. We are, I'm gonna try to work with them to have a meeting quarterly with the HDAC. Those who'd like to show, my understanding is it'll be an open meeting, correct, Mr. Olashef? Yes? To the public, and then if a board member or 2 would like to attend, they could. I think it would go a long ways to help some of the divide, and I think it allows us not only to relay information to them of things that we're facing and dealing with, but also allow them to provide information back about any things we're not addressing in a proper way. And there's a little bit of feedback on both sides there. We're looking at give or take June, right, Chris, as, you know, a tentative date as to start. And that's, you know, kind of end of the second quarter. So it gives an option there. And then there was also some questions, I think, that the Board of Health had received that were then came to me about the contract that you guys signed on Wednesday. One of the questions that was received was, I think the statement was, everyone is getting a pay decrease. To my knowledge, from what I've seen, that's incorrect. The average is an increase from 29 cents an hour to $1.50 an hour being the maximum that I saw. That would be an increase.
What's the increase?
An increase from what they make now to what they make at Lake.
29 cents to what?
29 cents to $1.50. Those are the offer letters, or at least the offers that I'm aware of. Now, if someone applied and got an offer after that, or they're on the offer list, I may not have those. The other question was vacation accrual. Would Geauga employees start at 0 again? The answer is no. I talked to the union in Lake County. I should have an addendum to the contract that exists with Lake with the union, and they will allow the grandfathering of the accrual date into the Lake County system. So they'll accrue it whatever their start date was with Geauga or similar. The other question I think built in, and I apologize, I don't know every single person.
Can I ask a quick question about
sorry.
vacation renewal? So they're getting, as part of their package of the layoff, they're getting their vacation paid out, right?
Any balance they have.
Any balance they have, and then they would carry it over as well?
They won't carry over the balance, they'll carry
Okay.
over what their accrual date is, so.
Okay.
So how many hours they
Yeah.
work per cycle,
Okay.
but they would start out at 0 hours accrued.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
So how are we, you know, cause stuff comes up, a lot of the employees have families and things happen, so how are we going to mitigate issues if somebody does have a sick day or things like that until they
Yeah.
accrue stuff? I don't know how the package works with sick time, PTO, things like that.
Yeah, so sick
but-
time transfers over.
Okay.
It's just it's a state code thing, so that'll transfer over. Vacation, I ran just a quick comparison between the two, and for the most part, with some very rare exceptions, everyone should earn more vacation as well, due to what the accrual rates look like. I'm sure there's someone that's an exception to that maybe, like one is, in 4 years, you earn 0.13 less. But at the end of the cycle, the maximum you can earn is Geauga, I believe, is 7.7, Lake is 8.6.
I just
So-
wanna make sure, like, sick time, like, somebody's not gonna have, like, fall ill and
No.
have something punitive happen for that, so.
No, and I would work it the same way I work it any other time, so if someone comes in and says they have a family emergency or something like that, we can do unpaid leave, we can do flexible hours, if they can work from home, they can do those, we try to,
Try to accommodate
yeah,
people.
as much as we can.
Yeah, that's all, I just wanna make sure.
There's a question about holidays. The holidays are, the count is 13 and 13, so that they have the same number of paid holidays off a year. There was a question about personal time. Personal time, they'll actually get 1 additional day off a year at Lake compared to Geauga, there's 3 days off. And then the last thing that I had from one of you was lunches and breaks. They will actually have a half an hour paid lunch, half an hour unpaid lunch, and 2 15-minute paid breaks. Currently, you get half an hour unpaid and 2 15-minute paid breaks. So there's, they get in essence another half an hour of paid time off per day. And if I missed any, let me know. Those are the questions that I believe I wrote down at some point from one of you asking me. Did I miss anything?
No.
Okay.
Can you give us an update on the interview process and how that's going, not going, and offers?
I would have to let you ask Mr. Graham that, just because I can't be involved in it
Oh,
on either
okay.
side.
When
That
can
was a
we-
legal opinion.
When can we ask Mr. Graham that question?
You as a board can do whatever you like.
I can ask him.
I can't tell you one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't know, Ron Graham, Lake County Health Commissioner. Right now, our costs are 7 to 9. We have several of us want to make sure they know what the benefits are, what their options are. Things we need to work out with the union, which one of them was the date change for insurance, so we'll do that. We hope we have as many as we can, but several have not reached out to us, so we keep open arms so we can take everybody who can.
Thank you.
Can I
Yeah.
just follow up on that? Is it your desire to hire as many as you can from the existing work pool?
From within the contract, yes.
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 So that applies to virtually all the employees who were previously, or until the end of this month, working as JAGA and potentially working at Lake?
Correct, yeah, within the parameters of the contract, so the management is the tough part.
And Ron, are there offers out right now for some? Does it-
We're waiting, before we get offer, we had to check with the
For the
insurance.
insurance.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow they will go off.
Okay.
How many do we think, how many offers are out, can you say?
None until now, but we probably.
Got it,
9,
okay.
7, 9 that are ready to roll.
Okay, thank you.
And to clarify, anytime that someone from Geauga applies at Lake, I automatically cannot be involved, just because of the
Okay.
conflict of being both sides. Because you can view it either way, they're trying to push someone to Lake, or I'm trying to not get someone to Lake, so.
Absolutely. No, makes
Uh,
sense.
fine.
we had a legal
That's fine.
discussion on that
Yeah.
probably a year ago. And then lastly, the Geauga County Township Association, the next meeting is April 12th. Mr. Tiber sent that out to all of us graciously. I usually send you guys an email, and I hear back sporadically who will attend. So I'm just gonna hand this over to you guys, and you can sign if you'd like to attend. The date and time, everything is on there. And that way, you don't overpay or underpay, because then I make up the difference when we're there. So I'll pass that around, so you guys can sign up if you'd like to attend.
Take a look at the keynote speaker,
Yes.
Worthy.
Oh, yes, I've heard her speak before.
It's the Harriet
She-
Tubman
Yes.
Foundation, which is a fantastic one. She's
Yeah,
on our
it's a
PAGE
great
coalition,
organization.
and
Women's safe.
she's phenomenal. Yeah, it's really good discussion points that they have. Totally different insight than what most people in the county have.
Good vibes. I know.
And as an FYI, as I always tell you, no more than 2 of you can sit together at a table.
We know.
I know you love my conversations with all of you.
We know.
It's my disclaimer.
I'd love to attend, but I will not be present at that time, so.
I appreciate that, Ms. Roman.
You'll,
Sounds,
I called you Ms. Roman
You
on
did.
purpose,
I'm looking at
because I
it.
can't stand
Is it? Oh, thank you. Well, I actually thought ours weren't switched.
yeah.
They are, okay.
We interrupt this
Waited
broadcast
till
it.
for breaking
Sorry,
news.
I just couldn't.
All right, so am I the correct person now?
Yes, our identities have been saved. I apologize for any comments I made on your behalf.
Other than that, the last thing on there is the finance report, so if you guys have questions on that, but I don't want to keep you here the entire night.
yes, of course I have questions on.
I'm shocked, utterly shocked.
The immunization action plan is showing an increase in expenses. It says we have not received the offset revenue. Can you explain what that means?
I believe that one is we're just expecting more revenue to come in, and some of that is just when we bill for a grant we can. It's a hard grant to bill for, well, Carol knows, it's not, they keep cutting the revenue, and they actually cut us out of that grant starting next year, where we have to apply through Lake or some other entity, we can't apply as our own anymore, due to
That
our
was
size.
regardless of.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. My other question, I noticed there were no legal fees.
There will
On
be,
this.
there's about 100,000, if I remember correctly, that needs to be paid out as of
Woof.
right now.
Okay.
I got a voicemail about those, and Carolyn, Johnson is working on those,
Yeah.
yes. I said that, I'm like, I never say the last name.
Is that just because the invoice wasn't sent?
Just waiting for payment, so
Okay.
someone was opening POs, some of the other things, so Carolyn's on that.
Okay.
And so
Johnson.
how many months is that for? Is that since the beginning of the year? Since-
No, that's, I wanna say 2 or 3 months.
Okay. Is it possible for us as a board to receive the itemized, legal bill?
Yes, I have to check with that with Brian, because those do get redacted before they go out. Generally, the only people who get to see those are auditors, obviously the Board of Health, but I wanna make sure how he wants that to flow.
Yeah,
I would be
would
curious with
curious to
that.
see, like, is it like the consultations
Yes,
versus
I-
reviewing documents?
Right, I would like to see, line items,
Yes.
particularly if we're approving the financial reports and we're paying those bills,
And we
and it's
can-
a significant expense.
And I'll figure out how Brian wants to handle that.
Okay.
That because I'm not always involved when you
Yeah.
guys, go in to get a service, so I don't always know the services you guys are contracted with.
Okay. Any other
Right,
questions?
I
on the-
think that's a very good request to be able to see the details right now.
And that, if I remember correctly, that part is just for the, previous room we used, the one they switched to now, that does not include the audit that we're doing on House Bill 110.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, that's separate. So just an FYI on
So I have
that.
a question about that when you get to that.
Okay. You have any questions about finance?
No, that was it, those are my finance questions.
Okay.
I'm done. Anyone else have finance questions?
No, I have questions about another House, I'm curious as to where the audit is for House Bill 110.
Well,
Let me,
sorry.
let's
Oh.
move to approve the finance reports and then we can circle back to that. Does that sound okay?
I move to approve the finance report.
Or can you continue the motion?
March 2023.
Yeah.
For March 22, 23.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we need a roll call for those?
No, that's just not.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I need to abstain.
I was gonna ask, any abstentions?
No.
Ms. Roman?
Likely you should not, I mean, I would not advise that.
Okay, so, did you wanna discuss the House Bill?
Yeah, I was just wondering whether we have an update on the audit for House Bill 110.
I did talk with Brian, unfortunately he couldn't be here tonight. I don't have a final document yet to provide you guys, or ladies and gentlemen. As far as I'm aware right now, there still is nothing saying that they were done. So we're still waiting on that from him though. I don't want to speak before, our chickens hatch or anything here.
It's my understanding some were done, but some were not.
There are some, I want to say 2017, 18, and 19, there were a couple of them off that list. But those were more of like either new installs or possibly replacements.
It's like a couple.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to speak until he, once he provides the audit statement, I feel a lot more comfortable because we didn't go through all 600 and some files downstairs.
But Brian said that 22 and 23 had been done.
Right.
So we're good on those.
Yeah, and we are, so there's somewhat of a cycle on those. So one of them is a yearly inspection, and then there's a third of a year on the other one. So you kind of get one that's yearly, and then you get a third, and a third. I've asked Dan to do, and Dan was already, I think, on that track, is do the yearly ones this year and the other 2/3 so that we're fully caught up as of the end of 2023. It's not an easy undertaking. It's a pretty monumental task on Dan and his staff side, but it would make more sense, I think, to get us fully caught up and say we do understand, no matter where the audit goes, we're fully understand where we're at right now. So.
And I think if the audit reflects that these inspections have not been conducted, it is appropriate for us as the Board of Health to refund those folks that paid for the inspections. And Mr. Licky, where would that money come from, and what fund would we use to?
If the board were to do that, it would come out of our reserves, which, so I'm just saying what revenue is. Revenue for that time was $500,000 to $600,000 roughly, just estimating. I don't disagree. I think if a service was provided, if a service was paid for but not provided, there's a moral, ethical, and a legal issue there, I'm sure. I'm not a lawyer, I say legal, but a moral and ethical there at a bare minimum.
Yes.
And that would come out of reserves. That would 100% require board approval, because I don't have the authority to do that level of expenditure for you by any means.
But the board would have been that March, whatever that day was, we had the special meeting to talk about that. We agreed as a board, we voted to say that we would.
I
I
don't
think we
believe there was
said
a
that
vote.
we would, but that's our intent, but I don't think we voted
That's
because
correct.
there's nothing to vote on at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's
For
For sale of property, you gave me the authority to handle that as necessary. But House Bill 110, I believe that was more of a waiting for the audit.
Right.
I just do audits. I'm a fan of waiting for that. Let's see what they say.
I agree.
How they, there's just a lot that goes into that. Not to mention, as an example, let's say Dr. Rude owns a business and has a septic, and he paid for it. He retired, sold the business, and someone else took it.
Right.
Who do you pay back? Like,
Yeah.
do you pay the business back? Do you pay Dr. Rude back? Do you pay? It's an onion. You're gonna have to peel back the layers, and then we'll have to have some legal advice, and there's a lot that goes into that though. So, but yeah, hopefully the audit will be done relatively soon though. Mr. Castro, I'm sure will be at the next meeting, and then we can talk then and see where he's at on that.
Okay, great. Are we moving to old business?
Yeah, if the board so wishes, I can take those off the agenda, or we can leave them on. Until you tell me to take them off, I'm just leaving them on for right now.
I think we can leave, personally, I think we can take these off the agenda going forward. I do think it would be helpful to have, part of your update of how the process is going.
Transitional
Yeah,
update.
transition update is part of the administrator / health commissioner update going forward. Does anyone have any other comments in that regard?
No, I agree. The only update I have regarding the administrator position is, Lynn and I put our heads together a little bit, and I did notify all, I believe it was 31 candidates, that we were no longer pursuing the filling of that position as we have entered into this cooperative agreement with Lake County, so an administrator would be provided. So they have all been notified. So if we can officially, we take that down and close it.
And just for clarity, of the applications that came in, there were only 4 candidates that were actually qualified, got close to the meeting the requirements, and so those 4 were interviewed, but.
And
So-
so can we, do you guys have anything you wanna add to close all postings, or?
Yeah, I
I
think we
can
should.
speak about the other
And we
one.
just did, the administrator's the one that was up, cause I think I was
Oh,
gonna do the
yeah, I think
administrator,
we
and I
already-
said you wanted to wait
yeah,
until you
yeah.
hired one, do the other, so I
That's
left that one.
So if we can take down, I would say the administrator
Yes.
position
Yeah,
for
on
good.
on bamboo, sure.
Alright, I'll remove that.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, new business health commissioner contract.
Yeah, I was asked to put that on by one of you, so I'll let you, I'll handle that.
I'm sorry, well, I'm gonna guess what this is about, but I assume this is related to, Dr. Cameron's contract, and we will no longer require his services under the, cooperative agreement. So I think
As
we,
health commissioner.
as health commissioner and medical directors, we will utilize those services, as part of the lake staffing. And so we can terminate that agreement with 30 days notice.
Are we, so I guess I have a question regarding
Yep.
the medical director portion of this.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
contracting that
Okay.
through the lake.
Yes, that is, okay,
Is
I just
that
wanted to
correct?
clarify,
It
because I
is,
don't know
I mean,
that
I read the
we-
contract, it's in there, it's up to you
Yeah.
what you do though,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't know that we really outwardly.
So I would need a motion to, terminate, to give notice to Dr. Cameron to terminate.
When
his
is Dr.
agreement.
Cameron's agreement up right now?
He's on a monthly contract that you guys approved in February, I believe, end of January, beginning of February.
It's a month-to-month agreement.
So is it at the end of the month or is it the beginning of the month?
I would have to look at that, to be honest. You have to give 30 days notice, I would.
30 days
yeah,
notice.
I'd have to go through it.
Is there a motion to, terminate Dr. Cameron's, contract for health commissioner / medical director?
With 30 days notice.
With
Yes,
30
to
days.
provide.
Per the contract.
Yeah, 30 days notice.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Dr. Hendrickson.
Yeah, you can abstain if you'd like.
Huh?
You can abstain if you like, or vote, it's up to you.
Not able to vote?
He didn't really read it, but,
Yeah, I mean,
it's up to you, it's.
We,
Huh?
It's up to you.
Yeah,
I think I should abstain.
I would probably agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I'll let you know what you want though, but I probably
Yeah.
agree.
Dr. Root,
Yes.
Ms. Roman,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
and Ms. Breaky is also yes.
I do just wanna say though, thank you. You've been wonderful.
Yeah.
The service that you've provided
Been a lot
to
of
our
fun.
community has been, done with utmost professionalism and care for our residents here, and it's been a pleasure to have you.
You're here.
He's got a great personality and sense of,
That's right.
sense
We
of
like your
humor
dad
as
jokes.
well.
Yeah.
He definitely lightens the room up.
So we'll move on to food service operations and retail food establishments.
I'll hand that off to Dan for both C and D.
Okay, great.
So I believe, one thing is of the timing where we, wrote the board report, we had about 40 restaurants that had not renewed their licenses yet. All their staff got letters out to them informing them of their late fees and needing to, get their payment in. So we're still at about 40 locations that have not renewed their license and are operating, without technically being unlicensed. So, we will send out one more notice for places to have an administrative hearing for them to come in, hopefully, and get them to pay, and also contact them one more time. But I just didn't wanna wait a whole nother month to the next board meeting to wait for permission to, contact the prosecutor's office to, help us remind them to pay their fee or to end operating as an unlicensed facility.
What do they get in return for the operating license?
Legally, they need one to operate to sell food. If you're gonna sell any type of food, you need to have a license. You can give it away for free, but if you're gonna sell it, you have to be licensed in the state of Ohio.
Is there any this is sort of a silly question, because I've seen other counties post things, is there any notification to the public of who is or is not licensed once they do not meet the requirements or pay their fees?
Not currently, no.
Okay, I just didn't know if we did anything, so people know like, hey, you're getting food from an unlicensed, unoperable
So we'd like to give
facility.
another week or two, and then from that point, we'll, make a face-to-face visit also during that time period.
Okay.
And then after that, if they don't wanna cooperate, then bring in the heavy hand.
And sometimes the face-to-face works, and like one of them I went out to, because I was heading out that way, and
Yeah.
just with staffing issues and life in the way, they hadn't gotten to it. He cut me a check that day, and said, here, please take it back so you don't have to have someone else drive out there. I said, yeah, sure. So, this is the last ditch scenario, like, if we don't have any other choice, that's where we go, but the goal is never to go to prosecuting if we don't have to, I don't think.
Yes, that's the last resort, so we'd rather.
So, Mr. Lark, what do you need a motion for here?
A motion to refer the retail food establishments and food service operations who have not renewed their license to the Charter County Prosecutor's Office.
All right, do I have a motion in that regard?
Thank you, I was trying to.
Don't remember it. Don't remember it.
So moved, I motion to refer those cases to the prosecutor's office.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Do we need a roll call vote for that?
It wouldn't hurt.
Okay, roll call vote, Dr. Hendrickson.
And the reason I did roll call is because if you want to abstain from most of these, it's a lot easier to just say abstain instead of going through the whole thing and then going back to you. So.
Your vote, Dr. Henderson.
I think I should abstain. 'cause-
Probably.
Dr. Rude.
Yes.
Ms. Roman.
Yes.
Dr. Jones.
Yes.
And Ms. Brackey, yes.
And I think Dan and I will try to get you guys, well, actually it'd be Dan, we'll try to get you a list of the ones we have to send across here, just so you're aware of which ones went over, that way it's not.
That would be
The
helpful.
hope is it's like 0, but
Right,
at
Right,
least you have
yeah,
this.
I would.
Yeah, we're gonna take one or two more steps first to try to get everybody into compliance
Yeah.
before we go to that, but I just didn't wanna wait till the end of April, then they've been operating
Certainly.
2 months of the year without a license, and, for, it's not fair to the businesses that are complying and all that, so we wanna make sure.
And the one thing we don't have control over is the late fee, though. We have to charge a late fee for the state, so we have no control over that.
It's 25% of the license
Yeah,
fee.
it's actually pretty hefty. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 25% is a hefty late fee.
And what is
but,
the licensing fee for them?
It depends on the size of the,
Okay.
the large.
What's the
Just
range?
curious.
What's the range?
Yeah.
It's probably the late fee range,
No.
Or
the license fee.
license.
I think class ones are about $100 and some up to $700 or $800 for the
Oh,
class
So that
4
can get pretty
licenses.
steep with the late fee.
Yeah, it can. And those late fees are not set by us either. It's just 25%.
It's just the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting,
How they do
just
things.
curious.
Yeah. So it gets up there if you're a large entity. Or-
Okay.
Okay.
The Ohio home sewage treatment rules, Mr. Lark?
Yeah, so the section you touched on a little bit earlier ago about the language. So what we're looking to do is change the supplemental rule that Geauga set a while ago that lets, when the supplemental rules went into effect in 2015, every county had to pick, there's a couple choices in the rule that every county can make. And so one of them was for MPDS systems, whether the county was gonna reserve the right to take the samples or allow service providers to do that. And currently, in Geauga County, the service providers were granted the right to do that. Currently, they're not being done. I mean, we've had about 8% of the 1,800 systems, or 1,600 systems actually got sampled last year. And only 24% of, I think 20, less than 25% of them actually met the criteria for the water quality standards. So for all the water for these 1,600 systems, these are, if they're not working properly, it's a direct discharge of raw sewage out into the county waterways. Part of, I know a lot of people in the county have had concern with the FSOP going to make sure that there's a concern about water quality in the county. And so these are, if they're not working properly, are a direct pipeline really from people's toilets to the ditch or waterways. So by changing this regulation section, what we'd like to do is collect those samples ourselves, and we could do it cost efficiently. And then we can make sure we're having all those people maintain their systems and keep them in compliance with the law.
Did you say about 8% were done by?
Yeah, so we did,
8%.
the staff here did 8%. We sent out a letter saying we'd offer a first service, and we had 8%. We really didn't get any other results in that I've seen. So,
So does that mean that the individual owner of that system has not made the phone calls to say, hi, come out and, to anybody, come out and do my system?
they may have a service contract that, but we
Okay.
may or may not have copies of that, but I don't think we got the test results in. So we did did send out letters to every single person last year, and we had an 8% response rate.
And to be fair, I think the letters were a little confusing as well, correct? That was that letter? Yeah, it's a little confusing too, so that plays a little bit of a role. And like Dan
But it
mentioned-
is a personal responsibility that
Yes.
unfortunately the homeowner is not keeping up on, so, and in the sewage code, we are responsible for making sure that they're not a public health nuisance, so
Yeah.
we can either do enforcement proceedings on 1,600 people, or we can, hopefully cost efficiently help them comply with the law, so that's kind of your choice.
And O&M, hopefully we'll have the MPDS rolling out by June. I had a call from a realtor actually yesterday that didn't know O&M was coming up. He was concerned because, FSOP was still off, O&M hadn't started. So, we're gonna do some presentations about O&M in general, and including to some realtor groups, just to, they're the ones that deal with it the most. And if you buy a house and think you have to do it, then you do, you're kind of mad at us because you were told you have to do it, then you have to. But we'll do it to all the public entities as well, so we're gonna go township to township, village to village, city as well. But we'll do presentations for all them on O&M and how it's gonna affect them and what to expect and what to look for. And we'll always invite any of you that would like to attend as well, obviously. It's usually usually at night, honestly, but we'll still give you guys a heads up if you'd like to, you guys and gals, if you'd like to head out to that.
So you're proposing that GPH now take total responsibility for doing the inspections on these?
No, not doing the inspections. So the homeowner is responsible, collecting the samples. The homeowners are still responsible for having a service contract, which requires twice a year inspections by their service provider. So we're not gonna maintain it, but we'll be out there to collect the sample, which is in the permit that they agreed to with EPA.
And Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, we're also responsible for the sample either way. So if we tell the private sector to do it and they don't, we are still liable for not following up with them when they didn't do it.
So the choices kind of are, are we gonna enforce it, or are we gonna actually help the homeowners comply with it? And so those are kind of the two choices in how you wanna spend that power.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
So I move that we approve a regulation change to section 3701-29-19E of the Ohio Home Sewage Treatment System Rules, Geauga County Supplemental Rules, to state the Geauga County Board of Health adopts a rule requiring the collection of the required annual sample to be completed by Geauga County Board of Health.
And then you just wanna put the required NPDES sample in there, because it's very specific to a type of system.
For the required NPDES sample.
It just, one thing to add to this. So looking through your bylaws, there's not a really clear way to adopt new regulations. So part of what I think, did you pass this out?
Yes, I did. That's the document I stapled for everybody, or
So-
not stapled, it's just.
It's just a general procedure typically on how to adopt regulations, and it consists of 3 readings pretty much. But it is a guideline that if you wanna review and think that it's something you want to adopt or not, but I still think we should do 3 readings of it, but it's kind of a basic guideline that I think might be helpful to the board.
And some it's already set in code, but it's just
Yeah.
more formal for all of you.
I was gonna say, I know we've done like 3 readings of fees in the
Yes.
past, but I think it would be good to see if we can add that into our bylaws as a standard.
So I think we should table the motion to change the proposed regulation.
You read all that for nothing, Dr.
Great, thank you.
It was excellent reading, however, Dr. Rude, you got the dashes and everything. But I think we should table that until after we amend the bylaws, probably.
I'd like to read all this through and just make sure.
And so, and real quick, so Dan, if we don't do it tonight, is there any impact on that?
It just really pushes a month back when we can start doing the sampling portion of it, that's all.
And so that's up to you. You guys, we can wait and do that. It's just so you're aware. I mean,
Is there any way of doing this motion properly tonight?
I'll leave that to Dan to make sure I want to make sure the verbiage is correct and we're not violating.
Yeah, so my thought was, I still think that you should do 3 readings, because I think it's only fair that there's input from the public or anything like that when you have 3 readings. So I really do feel strongly that 3 readings is probably the way to go. I'm not sure how you wrap, this adoption of regulation. I just wanted to make sure we did it in a.
So what if we went in you guys can review that and then we'll address it, because the bylaws are a whole separate thing anyways. But as long as you're okay with 3 readings,
Yeah, I
we're
mean-
gonna go on the assumption you want 3 readings, make sure the public is well informed, and then we'll go based on that. And then you have what Dr. Root had motioned.
So 3 readings brings us to what month, assuming we go
We do
back
it
to
May,
month?
June, or sorry, April, May, and June,
Yeah.
and then we can do it right
Pretty
after.
much July.
Yeah.
Okay, but the 1,600 systems that are out there right now, all those homeowners have been notified?
They all got a letter last year about the requirements. So, and they, you know, homes may have sold, but for the most part, you know, they all signed documents understanding that.
Okay.
When they, and they had to submit it to EPA, so it wasn't even to us, but they submitted it to EPA.
And obviously, there's gonna be some understanding in this, that they say, hey, we're gonna work, like, the goal is not to hit them with a rubber mallet, the goal is to work with them to get them where they need to be in compliance with what's going on. So, but the bylaw one, we can, as long as you understand that we're gonna do 3 readings, and no one, and that's what we do normally anyways, but this is more a formal, so that nobody can kinda go around that. But we could do the other motion that Dr. Root had so eloquently said, and then we could do the bylaws in April, if we did that.
I'm confused. I thought we were gonna read the change in the regulation 3 times before we passed it.
I think you're talking about the fees, correct?
What's that?
The 3 readings is the regulation or the fees?
It's the regulation.
Sorry, the regulation, sorry, I'm saying fees, I apologize.
Yeah, so I think Mr. Lark is suggesting that we read the change in the regulation 3 times before making
Right.
the motion to adopt it. So we would not make that motion tonight.
No, but I think what I'm hearing from Adam is we need to change the bylaws in the meantime.
It's just more of a formal process to make sure
So-
it's, we're in compliance with you
Okay.
guys.
How much time do we need to change the bylaw?
I mean, you guys, a couple of you recently worked on that, we could always amend those, but Dan, you need you need to start the process tonight, or
I mean, it's been 7 years of not happening, so another month or 2, is it gonna make or break anything? So I'd rather do it the right way, so there's no question about our procedure and process here. So, you know, honestly, I'd love to get this started as soon as possible, because it's a big undertaking to get started, but I would prefer that we are nice and upfront and clear about what we're doing in the process and how we're adopting a regulation change.
Let me ask this, if we happen to have a special meeting, can we add that to special meeting and
You
just?
could,
Okay,
I know you all
just in
love
case,
meetings.
just in case we have a special
Please do.
meeting, we can advance this, okay.
Yeah.
So since my motion didn't get a second, I withdraw my motion.
Alright, so we can table that if you so choose.
Yeah. Should we have a motion
Yeah.
to table?
Yeah.
Just for minutes.
I have a motion to table the regulation change.
Second.
We need it first.
We need it first.
Oh, sorry.
Last page.
I move that we table the motion that I presented.
Second.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One
Abstentions?
abstention.
Okay.
That's
All
you.
opposed? And abstentions?
2 abstentions,
Okay.
and then 3 ayes.
And
Okay,
then.
just for those who are watching, Ashley abstains and Dr. Henderson abstains. Yeah, okay.
And then, at our next regular meeting, perhaps we can discuss the adoption of this regulation to our.
Ms. Brick, you'd worked on the bylaws before, would you like to open them up again?
We did lots of homework tonight.
I mean, yeah, I can insert this in them.
Ashley dodged a bullet with that presidency.
No.
All right,
Alright.
so now we're on to, we need to, do a motion to cover the health insurance to,
Yes.
change.
I would prefer it that way, so you, I mean, I can go tell the county to extend it, but I would prefer to have a motion just so it's a little more formalized and balanced.
Any further discussion on that, the changing of the last day of current employees that will be laid off in order to, not prevent a lapse in health coverage? Any other further discussion on that topic?
No.
And then I believe I'm gonna need a motion to move the last day for those impacted employees from March 31st to April 1st, 2023. Is that correct? Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move that we move the final employee date from March 31st to April 1st, to allow for,
People that have health insurance.
to allow for the employees to have, continue health insurance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. I'll go.
You wanna do a roll call on that, or?
Yeah, and I guess, it's just, we probably should ask for discussion after you guys get a first and second, so it's just not,
Okay.
but, yeah, but you guys are in your discussion, so you can vote if you'd like.
Are we doing a roll call now?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay, Dr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Dr. Rude.
Yes.
Ms. Roman.
Yes.
Dr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Brackey, yes. The motion carries, so that will change the employees' last to people first in order to allow them to maintain their health coverage. All right, time for the good part?
Yeah, so, or do you wanna go, sorry.
No, no, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna say thunder.
Roll.
So public comment, session will last up to 20, last 20 minutes on average. Board of Health can move to extend that though. 2 minutes per speaker to make comments and ask questions. The board will answer questions after having an opportunity to investigate responses following the meeting. This is not a press conference where answers will be expected on the spot, and board responses will be recorded and publicly filed with meeting minutes if such ones are provided. Generally, you guys tend to provide them in the open meeting, either the next meeting or one after, and they're just kind of, televised to some degree, but also made available, so. And then, I don't have a sign-in sheet with necessarily who wants to talk, so if you'd like to open up to
Oh, go
whoever.
ahead, you can call.
Okay, so unfortunately the TV's not working up there right now, it's not letting me sync the tablet to it. So if you'd like to speak, we'll kind of go around just kind of put your hand up and come up. I'll start the timer, when you start speaking, you'll have 2 minutes, and then the alarm should go off, when you're done. I do ask that you have 2 minutes, so at the end of 2 minutes, please sit down politely, because what happens is we then get the comment, someone kept talking, had 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I only got 2 minutes, it's an issue. And that isn't what has come up in the past. So, would anyone like to start? Yes, sir.
Newell Howard, South Russell Village. This is about this agreement, which didn't come out overnight. When did it start? And who put it together? We don't know. When was the decision made? Who in Geauga County authorized this? Does anybody know? How much did the contract cost? This was done not by the prison prosecutor's office, this was done by an outside law firm, and they were paid a lot of money for it. Why did Geauga County have only hours, the board here, to decide? Did anybody see this before last week? Yes or no? What were or are the financial shortfalls that caused this document to be created? How were the citizens and the people in Geauga County notified? We need answers.
Good.
No, not quite, I'm waiting for answers possibly.
It's up to the Board of Health if they'd like to provide answers, that's not.
If anyone would like to respond to any of those points, you may, or we can move on to the next person.
Does anybody have any answers as this document?
They may want to talk to their legal, I think what they're saying is they want to talk to their legal
Why don't we get the
first.
legal officer in here to talk to us today?
He was unavailable today. He
Who is the legal officer?
The board has retained Brian Kostura from, McDonald Hopkins, sorry, I was in an old firm,
Does
new firm.
the Geauga County retain him or did Lake County retain him?
Geauga Public Health.
Yeah.
He's been at our meetings, I want to say since last.
Who,
Yeah, it's been a
who
while.
wrote this document?
That's the Board of
The
Health.
whereases and so forth and so on, so.
That'd be up to the board to answer.
That was
And-
written.
And it's the first time I've ever seen a legal document that's a recital. Recitals are normally in churches.
No, that's incorrect, sir. I can tell you as an attorney, I put recitals in
The
contracts.
recitals are legal?
Yeah, that's a standard practice in
Well,
contract
all the
drafting.
time, I'm not a lawyer, but I've been involved in many lawsuits, I never was involved with a recital.
Yeah, whereas clauses are often used in contracts. If no one else wants to address with comments, then I think we should move on to the next person.
This can never
I'm
be
sorry,
allowed
sir,
to
your
go on
public
again.
comment has ended. I think we should move on to the next person. Who would like to speak?
Can't
Please?
go on again.
So, anyone else would like to speak?
Well, I will, but anyone want before me?
It's up to you, Mary.
Nancy, anyone?
Okay.
Hello, Board. Mary Briggs, Geauga County. Ms. Rowan, at the last regular meeting and subsequent meetings prior to this, the jurisdictional contract was only under discussions. So I'm asking the Board if you were, who authorized Brian to collaborate with Prosecutor Flays, Prosecutor Coleman, and 2 other attorneys to write the document that then was voted on last Wednesday, the 15th. I also find it interesting that following last Wednesday's board meeting, that if not the entire board, but a majority of the board members and Brian Collette met in Adam's office, and I didn't see you break into executive session.
I don't think that's true.
Didn't
No,
happen.
you can continue.
Okay, so I was, I've also wanted to bring up that Ms. Jones, if it's not a conflict of interest to have been on the Environmental Health Committee and also voting on issues that impact your father and husband's business. Also, I'm sorry that the board and or Adam hamstringed Dr. Cameron's responsibilities during his time representing the Board of Health here. And the theft that has not been discussed.
Did you say the theft?
The theft of data that has not been discussed amongst the board, but is known by other outside people, which I.
Okay. Did you wanna?
I would certainly love to address. Thank you for bringing up that concern of conflict of interest, Ms. Briggs. Per the counsel that we have retained through the prosecutor's office as well as our private legal counsel, since he was appointed and even prior to that, I have abided by the guidance that they've given me in terms of discussion and voting. Therefore, I do not participate in the discussion or the voting of anything pertaining to sewage and wastewater issues. You were present at all of our board meetings, so you watched that I abstained, so, you know, I find it a little disheartening that you don't pay attention to that. But I do not discuss or vote on those issues. It's unethical and immoral, and I know you can certainly agree that it's appropriate that I do not discuss or vote on those issues, nor have I.
Yeah.
And we do not have an EH committee.
Yeah, there is no EH subcommittee. And regarding last week's meeting, we did all, I believe several board members went back into the health department, but we were not together, we were separated. I'm kind of a stickler about those things, as others will tell you, so.
And I walked out, spoke to a trustee, and then left at Starbucks.
Yeah, does anyone else have any other public comments they
So-
would like to make? No, I'm sorry, Ms. Briggs,
But
your
you
time has
didn't
ended.
answer
I'm
the
sorry, Ms.
question
Briggs,
about
your time has ended.
Flays.
Does anyone else have any
Again,
public
Mary,
comments?
you gotta keep 2 minutes, that's, public comment for anybody else. Gail.
Gail Rusi, League of Women Voters. I just had a question about what was stated tonight regarding the contract by Mr. Graham. So we're going to take everyone we can within the parameters of the contract. He said that twice. So I'm confused, does that mean there's a certain number of employees within the parameters of the contract or certain level of employee that's not within the parameter of the contract? That was my question.
Mr. Graham, do you wanna address that?
Yeah, I don't wanna speak, I don't wanna misspeak. Contract A, the contract attachment, I think, Exhibit A lists by category the positions we have available. that'd be funded by Giaga. If something would change, we got to negotiate something additional to that, then we could take more or less. We also have several positions open at the county office, and we have several applicants look for separately, so if this, we would offer that, if they were a great candidate, they apply.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Does anyone else have a public comment?
I'd just like to make a comment on that as well. Lynn and I, the day after the HDAC and board meeting on Wednesday, at 8 o'clock in the morning, met with the employees who were convened to discuss the severance and other issues regarding their termination. Ron Graham was there, and our intent was to tell them that we welcome any and all of the current employees who would like to stay with Geauga Public Health under the staffing agreement which Lake is providing. We welcome that. We want that. They have been the lifeblood of this organization, and we would like to see that continue. Ron was very supportive of that. He was at that meeting as well, and expressed desire to, for everyone who was in the room at the time, find a place for them as an employee. So I left early because I had to get to patient care, but I left feeling confident that the best of intentions in terms of retaining our current staff was in the room and there, and I welcome any employee, existing employee, if they would like to stay. It seems that there are opportunities available for that to happen. I also want to respond to a comment that was made by someone who said that when Mr. Perano, our previous president, was running for his re-election position, he inarticulately made a comment saying that Geauga is mostly about environmental health and population health is somehow less important. I regret that he made that statement. I think he was trying to use it as a argument for why he, having had some experience in environmental health, might be preferentially elected by the HDAC instead of the colleague that I now have on the board to the left of me, who is and was a practicing physician. So it was not in the context of saying that we devalue and don't have passion to support population health and nursing at this board. Quite to the contrary, Dr. Hendrickson is a physician. I am a physician. I've known Lynn Roman for 15 years. She had many positions in which she worked promoting innovations in healthcare. Ashley, Dr. Jones, is a doctor of pharmacy, and this is her life's work. This is what we all do. We are passionate about providing the best opportunities for improving the wellness of the citizens of Geauga County. And I think that needs to be stated and reinforced. And any confusion regarding that, I apologize for any misstatements that were made, but it was not intended. And I hope that you understand the passion that we're trying to say today, reinforcing that this is called Geauga Public Health. Health is one of the 3 words in that name. So it would be ludicrous for us to not value, support, and desire for the highest ideals to be met for public health.
And I'd just like to make a comment supporting that. And again, to clarify, I retired from the clinic, but I'm still working, still practicing. And when Mr. Perano had pointed out that it was not so much about health these days, I just reminded them what we lived through the past few years with all this stuff about COVID. The reality of that and whatever might be coming in the future. And we're here as a group to help to minimize those problems and minimize the insanity of some responses.
If nothing else, next public comment. Mr. Timer, when you're ready.
Grand entrance, huh?
Give me a beat. First of all, I want to say that I'm Jonathan Tyler. I'm a Clarendon Township, right here in Clarendon Township. I want to say that this board, I've always been a fan of this board. I've always thought that they have made a lot of smart and prudent decisions. So it's like it's just so often today we disagree with somebody on one thing and throughout the whole person and disregard everything else that we agree with. So that's called perspective, proper perspective, and so I want to put that out there. Secondly, although I contended with the board with leading up to this agreement. If you read this agreement, there's a lot of people that think that it is something that it's not. It's not a bad agreement. My biggest contention was, why didn't you come and ask for a levy a while ago? And they told me, they said, well, look, if we could do something that could be efficient and save money without asking taxpayers, then that's what we should do. I respect that. I don't agree with it, but I respect it. Okay, that's a good answer. So I think it's time now to not burn down the house, but lift it up, get behind the agreement, because if this agreement's successful, GPH is going to be successful, and that's going to be a benefit for our residents. All right, if this agreement is not successful, if we try to burn down this house, then there's a real risk that GPH is going to fail as a whole, and nobody wants that, right? So it's let's get supportive. Let's get behind it, and let's just make sure that we're successful as Jaga Public Health.
Thank you,
I
appreciate that.
would like to just comment to Jonathan's comment about the levy. We did talk about the levy in our January, I think it was the end of January meeting, and at that point realized that, we didn't know what we were pursuing, but we also only had 2 weeks to put a levy on for the spring, and it would have cost this health department, I think the number was $17,000 to put that on the levy. That doesn't say we're not going for the levy. We have a levy option again in the fall, and this board will make that decision then too.
And regardless, Ms. Roman, my point is, it's water under the bridge now. It's time to move forward, and that's what I want to encourage.
Appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
Any further comments? All right, hearing
Yeah,
none.
sorry.
Okay.
Got a long way to go. This thing was handled.
I'm
here
sorry,
in
sir,
Florida.
your public comment has ended, and Mr. Alusha, you may begin.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I apologize.
Chris Alusha, President, Health District Advisory Council. I made my feelings clear to you guys last week. The rest of the HSAC made their feelings clear. It disappoints me that there's only 3 members here today, and I said that last week. Like Jonathan said, it's over, it's done with. You guys, we're on to the next step. There's no point in rehashing that. You know how we feel. We made clear how we feel. We made clear what the solution is to avoid that in the future. I think that's clear on both sides. And now it's time for us to work collaboratively to get to that point of what's best for the residents, the best way to implement this. I also agree that this contract, it comes down to business, and it's not the end of the world, and it remains Jaga Public Health. And so to that end, I am going to, we're going to have a meeting in 3 months, the Health District Advisory Council. You guys are invited, Adam is invited to an update, the public is going to be invited. I'd like to turn it into a quarterly thing. We'll take one step at a time. We've met annually, I don't know how long. So it's baby steps. It needs to be a 2-way street. We can't come here once a year and berate you guys and then not show up for the next year. That's wrong. So my goal, to the extent that I can, is to make this, get everybody more involved, more informed, so that we can make more informed decisions too. But I would like to have some type of, come make it a 2-way street. Let's get that communication going. I think that'll go a long way. And as far as Mrs. Jones, I think you go above and beyond your statutory ethical duties with staying out of it. It was my understanding of other counties, they have septic installers on the Board of Health.
Thank you.
So you can't leave the room every time somebody says septic in a place that's full of septic systems. So I have no issues with what you're doing.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank you, Chris. And looking forward to collaborating more with HDAC.
And the hope is, to interject with Chris here, I mean, so the hope is Chris can bring things to us too. I hope at least one of you can attend, if not two of you. But the hope is it can be two-way street, like Chris said, and it can come back. So maybe we're not doing something, maybe the community is not getting met of a certain need. They can bring that to us and say, hey, you guys are lacking in area A, B, and C, but you got D and F covered. How do we get A, B, and C covered? And hopefully, again, multiple minds is gonna make this a lot easier task. So I think it's gonna be a great thing, and I think quarterly is what we're looking for. And obviously Chris always has my number, can stop in here. The goal is to open up that as broadband as possible. As Chris mentioned, a good step was it's open to the public, so they can come in, they can comment, and they can let us know what they think in that aspect, or at least listen, let me put it that way, at least listen.
And what unites us, the good of Geauga County, that unites all of us, the public, HDAC, and GPH. We might disagree on certain aspects of getting there, but let's stand behind what unites us.
I gotta cut you off, because I gotta.
I know, that's so wrong of me.
Before
I care about the
Carolyn
First
yells at you,
Amendment
I have
very
to be.
dearly.
Would there be anybody else who'd like to speak?
All right, I think I need a motion now to move to executive session.
I move to executive session to discuss matters of pending litigation, personnel, including employment, appointment, discipline, and compensation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Real quick, are you inviting anybody in?
I think we should invite you, Mr. Lickey.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Right.
He's not here.
All in favor, or do we have roll call?
Yeah.
I second. Roll call. Roll call.
Thank you, folks. We're still trying to conduct business here.
Sorry,
You can
please
move
make
out
sure
in
they
the
can
hallway.
hear.
Roll call vote. Oh, did we get a second?
We got a second?
Second. I
Mrs.
second.
Roman seconded. Roll call vote. Dr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Dr. Rude?
Yes.
Ms. Roman?
Yes.
Dr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Bricky, yes. We are now moving into executive section at 6:22 p.m.
Yeah, we can. I have few jokes, buddy, very few.
I'm actually surprised.
Who wanna talk about resolution, Rich?
Yes, I actually was, I was drafting one, and we didn't get enough time to do some other stuff you guys needed.
You replied with a one-liner saying you were gonna do it.
I did, and I was supposed to have it today.
Sorry, I know you wanted to leave me alone.
Alright, do I have a motion to, get out of executive session at 7 PM?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Dr. Hendrickson,
Yes, yes, yes.
Dr. Rude.
Yes.
Ms. Roman.
Yes.
Dr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Brackey, yes.
Vote to adjourn.
Yeah, I adjourn this meeting.
Yeah.